So yeah, so with the email that I've sent you, it's a blueprint to creating your own sustainable plan. Because the idea with nutrition is to have long-term success with nutrition it's about staying ahead of it, planning ahead. Just like what Shane mentioned in the post he put up yesterday, it's about because we're all busy people. So the earlier you can plan ahead, the better you'll have chances of succeeding, if you will. Especially because you all, you got kids, you got families, you got holidays, events, all sorts of things coming around. So it's very easy for us to say, here's the perfect plan, just follow this. But in reality, in real life situations, it's actually not going to work, right? So we have to find a plan, if you will, that you can still work around all of those, despite all of those events and occasions, to still get the results that you're looking for and maintain them, if you will. So what I'm trying to do, nutrition is a very complex subject. Every person has a completely different nutrition plan that they need and different nutrition requirements. So it's very challenging to create a nutrition plan for two different people. So with this, what I'm trying to create is simplify the process as much as possible. So you have all the knowledge, all the tools, and all the resources to pretty much create a plan for yourself. Yeah. And any time when you feel lost or you're not sure where to start or what to eat or what not, that's your go-to place. That's your go-to location. So make sure you save that. You can copy all that text and maybe somewhere stored for your reference. So what I'm going to do essentially is go through that a little bit more in detail, and also allow you to give me a little, we can have a little discussion towards the end based on that as well. I'm pretty much included into about 6 different steps. The very first step, if you look at the email, is a simple video of the foundation of nutrition. Yeah, so you get to hear my beautiful voice talking for about 20 minutes about the different concepts of nutrition and a few different strategies that I meant to talk about. So when it comes to nutrition, there's it's to simplify rather than going into detail. There's your proteins, your macronutrients, right? Your proteins, your fats, and your carbohydrates, right? These are all carbohydrates. Can you all see this, by the way? Hopefully this thing is not so much in the way. Anyway, protein, fats, carbohydrates, right? These are all energy sources, right? We need a certain amount of all of this, yeah? Now, how much of each of these you need all depends on your personal life, your age, your height, how active you are, etc. The list goes on, yeah? So to try to determine how much of these we get, there's different ways of doing it, but the simplest way that you can do by yourself is simply by having a simple software like MyFitnessPal, which pretty much does it all for you. Yeah, and it's simple. Within a few seconds, it just gives you all the information you need and simplifies that. It just gives you the simple guidelines of what to follow. So that's the next step essentially, is to download MyFitnessPal and create yourself a free account and set your goals there. Yeah. So essentially, the moment you sign up, it'll ask you to set the different goals. So a healthy goal, if your goal is to get leaner, I would say maybe just 1 to 2 kilos, 1 kilo maximum per week. The reasons I say that is you can definitely lose more weight than 1 kilo per week, but the way that you might lose over that can be muscle. Yeah. In fact, the chance of you losing more weight is all going to come from muscle. Yeah. So this is why you have to be a little bit careful when you're doing a weight loss program, because it's not as challenging as you think to lose weight, but the way that you might lose it can come dramatic from muscle, which is why we use the tracking softwares over here to challenge that, to figure that out. Yeah. So it's a little bit of an equation, a formula that you have to do through trial and error, to tracking, to identify these different areas that how your body reacts to different things. So for instance, when you sign up to that MyFitnessPal, it will give you a simple ratios of 20% proteins, 30% fats, and 50% carbohydrates, right? So that's a good starting point, yeah? So essentially that will tell you you have to eat X amount of proteins per day, X amount of fats, X amount of carbohydrates, yeah? And all you have to do is like a food diary. So to start off, especially to start off with any nutrition plan, it's a good idea to figure out where you're at right now, right? Especially to figure out where you want to be at. So what you need to do is, as part of that second step, is to track your nutrition intake for the next 7 days in a row. Yeah? and that will give you a good idea of where you're at and where your body's at metabolically as well. Yeah, and you'd be surprised. It's a big eye opener as well. You'd be surprised. One of the biggest surprises we tend to see is people tend to undereat a lot, and as a result of that, we hit a plateau and we don't lose much weight or we don't get leaner. Yeah, so this will give you a good eye opener to where you need to be at, depending on your age, your height, your activity levels, etc. So you want to try to get as close as possible to your daily macronutrient intakes. Yeah. And after you use that for the software for a while, you get quite used to it. It's pretty straightforward. All you need is spend a minute of it. It doesn't take long. Just spend a minute of your day just inputting bits and bobs, and it's pretty straightforward after a while to use it. And then that will give you a good idea of where you need to be at, what different goals to set in there. The other things I also speak about in that little video is I speak about intermittent fasting. Do you all of you know what intermittent fasting is? So there's different types of intermittent fasting. There's the 5-2 diet. I'm sure most of you have heard it. Very famous. That one does work, but it also has quite a few repercussions. Like we can easily abuse that system, if you will, that strategy, if you will. So a lot of people tend to do really well with it, but the moment they go off it, things spiral back down. So the one I would normally recommend, intermittent fasting wise, is a 16 to 18 ratio strategy. Essentially, you fast for 16 hours and you eat for 8 hours. Yeah, 16 hours may sound like a lot, but it really isn't after once you get started for a while. So you don't have to get started with 16 hours if you are doing this strategy. A lot of my clients have tried that strategy, and it works a lot for them. Especially if you're trying to lose a few inches of the waist quite quickly. That's a very good strategy because a lot of the weight that we carry, especially on the waistline, is bloatedness, water weight that we tend to have. So through intermittent fasting gives your stomach, your core, your intestines a little bit of a break. And as a result of all that, your body starts metabolizing body fat as well. So it's a very simple strategy to follow. And it's the simplicity is all you have to think about is two numbers. Don't eat between this time and this time. Eat between this time and this time. And through time, the magic happens and the body does its things. And as you track, you'll be able to see quite significant changes through that. But I've also included lots of information on intermittent fasting that you can always refer to. Also, if you're a person who's never done intermittent fasting, you don't have to jump into doing 16 hours. Yeah, you can ease yourself into it. So, for example, every time you go to sleep, you're fasting, right? You're fasting for about 8-10 hours, more or less. So, if you have something that you want to try, for the next week, just skip breakfast by 2 hours. The next week, 3 hours, 4 hours, so that you can build your way up to 16 hours. So essentially, and a simple example is you can stop eating 8 in the evening, eat 12 o'clock the next day, or stop eating 6 in the evening, eat 10 o'clock the next day. So you can simply create that those little margins like that, and as a result of that, you'll get some significant results. And it's a very good strategy, especially if you're going out on holidays, if you're going out on events, if you have birthday occasions, birthday parties and whatnot, quite occasionally. It's a very simple strategy that you can use to simply create a healthy deficit. So let's say, for example, on a Friday, you have an event or you're going to a restaurant, you're going to have a big meal or whatnot, you want to enjoy it. What you can do intermittent fasting 2 days before that day, or 2 days after that day, or the next week you can do it like that. And as a result of that, you still maintain this healthy deficit and whatnot, because it naturally balances out. It's a matter of not looking at it from 1 day's perspective. You want to look at it from a week's perspective, or even 2 weeks or 3 weeks perspective. Because the body naturally blends itself out. So that's what I tend to do a lot. When I go on holiday and stuff, I'll just go enjoy it, especially when I go to Italy. I'll have pizza pretty much 5 times a day. Not kidding. I'm not kidding. For breakfast, dinner, snack, everything. Yeah. I've got full evidence. Anyway. But then when I come back, obviously I put on a bit of weight, but all I do is, I'm not worried about it because I know for the next 6 to 8 weeks, I've already had this plan created for the next 6 to 8. I'm going to do intermittent fasting for the next, about 5 days of the week for the next 6 to 8 weeks. And then naturally my weight goes back to normal, my body fat goes back to normal. Because a lot of that weight that we put on during those events and whatnot is simply water weight as well. It's not like permanent weight. You can easily shift it back down. So it's not. So again, this is a matter of what we spoke about. It's a mindset shift that you want to change. Not because you've had a big holiday, a big weekend, a holiday, or a barbecue, whatnot, a birthday party. We tend to put ourselves down, right? We tend to be like, oh, I've gone off the wagon, or I've lost it, or we tend to just constantly put ourselves down. Yeah. But that's not the way you should be looking at it. You simply had a good weekend. You just had a good family event and whatnot, and tomorrow you start right back to where you started, pretty much. So that's why if you have something like this, a blueprint that you have easy to follow, that you created yourself, despite all of those, you can still focus on your results along the way. Because this is you're going to design this to keep going constantly, and then despite all those days that might come here and there, or those holidays, you still have a plan that's sustainable, that you can jump right back into, rather than thinking, I'll fall off the wagon, I'm going to start next week, or I'm going to start, before you know it, it's too late, right? 3 months, 4 months go past, we've all been there. So it's a matter of having something that goes on, it's constantly ongoing. So essentially, yes, step 2 is really make sure that you download to track your nutrition for 7 days in a row, to give you a good idea of where you are at and where you need to be at. And then I've included in step 3 is a nutrition worksheet, an online worksheet. Yeah, so when you fill this out, I get a copy, you get a copy. It's got quite a lot of different questions, but this is to create again your own plans. And I've asked you to look at your next 6 weeks overview, for instance. Yeah. So what the next 6 weeks is going to look like. You're going to have a holiday over the next 6 weeks. Are you going to be having birthdays or events? Are you going to have busy weeks, whatnot, that you can plan ahead for? Yeah? And I've also asked different things like, what are your weaknesses? What are your current trigger points? To identify them, because we all have trigger points. Like I tend to eat in the evening. Like I just wake up and I just eat out of boredom. Things like that. We all have these little weaknesses, if you will, that we have. So it's absolutely fine. It's simply identifying them and learning how to work around them, finding a solution for those issues, right? Because there's always a solution that we can figure out. So it's simply figuring them out and finding a solution for them, and then taking action based on that solution as well. And again, if you're struggling to focus on 6 weeks, in the fitness world we call 6 weeks like a mesocycle. So it's a little cycle that's quite good to focus on. Like you take it, for instance, you focus on the next 6 weeks, then you can take a week off from your nutrition, like stop tracking. Just have, pretty much give your body some rest, your mind some rest from the nutrition side of it, and then you can refocus again. But again, if you're struggling to focus on 6 weeks, if you want to focus on 4 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week, you can change that around however you like. Just ignore the 6 week word I've written there. Change it to whatever you feel like it's something that you can sustain or you can really work on. Like that. And I've also, so this is quite an important step that you need to do on. And as part of this step, I've also included a bunch of resources. For example, a lot of people, one of the biggest questions I ask is, what can I eat? What can I snack on? Different things like that. So here, obviously your meals, all of your snacks should be revolving around high protein baked, especially if you're focused to get leaner, especially if you're doing this kind of training, the kind of program that we're doing, you focus on getting toned up. So, I use the word toned up, so everyone doesn't like it, but it's the word that we all understand. I'm just going to turn this down. Yeah, love the soundtrack, nice. So anyway, yeah, so all your meals should be ideally focusing on high protein bases. Now, if you're not sure what high protein based food is, or examples of that, I've simply included there a list of animal-based proteins and a list of vegetable-based proteins, especially if you're vegan or vegetarian, so you have still options there. Then I've also included one of Shane's topics on lowering your carbohydrate intake. You should remember, like I said, you still need a certain amount of carbohydrates, yeah, to your body. It's inevitable. We are going to eat carbohydrates. And essentially, with this kind of sustainable plan, you can still eat the starchy food that you enjoy. Things like bread, pasta, and all of that. Yeah, that's the idea. Because we create a plan that we can still maintain, rather than we get suppressed eventually through it. So anyway, with this, obviously, if your goal is to lose, 10%, 20% body fat, that you still want to have a little bit more focus. So things like this, like lowering your carbohydrate intake, are quite useful topics to have. So, and then I've also included a whole bunch of example meal plans, like 7 days worth of meal plans and grocery lists for you to get ideas and inspiration. And that's not for you to follow word for word, that's simply for you to get ideas and recipe ideas or simple snacking ideas, simple tips for you to create your own meal plans. You can use these to use for that step 3 where I've also included, for example, what's your meal 1 going to look like, what's your meal 2 going to look like that, yeah? So you're going to simply use these to help you answer those, and then when you reflect back on it, you get to see, okay, this is what I'm going to eat on this day, this meal, like that, yeah? simply to give you an idea of it. Then I've also included a recipe book there, which got loads of different recipes, I think 42 different recipes, just for you to get different ideas again. And also if you get bored of eating one thing, you know, again, this is a loose-based plan. If you're bored of eating one thing, simply change it. Change it back over to something else. You can get plenty of ideas from the meal plans and the recipe books. The meal plans that I've included there, they also have, each meal has how much protein it has, how much carbohydrates and fats it has. So it's quite a simple one, especially if you want to add them on to like MyFitnessPal to try to get your daily goals. Then I've also included a video series, again me talking, of different topics in terms of getting lean and weight loss. So some of like things like alcohol and weight loss, sleep and weight loss, female hormone and weight loss. So some of the videos are not just mine. Some of my colleagues who specialize in certain things better than me as well. So simply for your reference, that's it. So just, you know, on your own time, you don't have to go through this all, but that's why I said save this somewhere where you can have it. Obviously the Facebook nutrition page is going to be at the top of the nutrition page always. So you can always go back to it when you have time to just educate yourself on those topics. Especially if you're stuck on something, that's always there. That's going to have. I'm going to be constantly adding different topics there as well, based on, you know, some of the discussions that I go with you ladies as well. Then step 4 is simply I've included a meal plan template, like a 7-day meal plan template. You want to print it out and use that step 3 to write down what you're going to eat for 7 days worth of nutrition. Yeah, and then simply paste it on your fridge. Yeah, this little step makes life a lot better, easier, and especially like, for example, when I go to the kitchen after a long stressful day, I'm there trying to eat whatever, right? All I have to do is look at the fridge, for instance. At the moment I look at that, that's enough to stop me, to control me, and then say, because that's enough of a trigger to say, actually, I know exactly what I'm meant to eat right now. Yeah. So instead of going for the wrong options, that little reminder teaches me to go back to the right option, like that. So that, you know, over the last year, that's made a huge difference. Not even myself, but a lot of the clients have done this as well. But also, just again, like I said. When you feel lost, when you had a weekend and then you're like, oh, where do I start? That's one of the biggest problems we had, biggest questions I get. Where do I start? You know exactly where you need to start. Okay, Sunday I've gone off the plan, absolutely fine. Monday I know exactly where I need to go right back at. And also, it's also a good plan, when it's there visually, your family gets to see it as well. Yeah, for one thing, you can also include your family into this plan. Yeah, so in that the worksheet that I've included, I've also asked different questions about, you know, how you can get your family, your partner involved as well. Because ideally, they should all be eating, you know, high protein meals. Kids, especially kids, you should all be eating more or less high protein source of food. We technically are already. Yeah, it's just having that little bit more extra consciousness that will make life a lot different. If you can get your family involved, guess what? It makes life a lot easier. And you're going to get, again, even better long-term results because it's easy to maintain, right? More people involved, the more team involved. Like in my house, we're all aware of what each other's eating, or we try to include, if you're having a meal together, we just make sure they eat high protein source, they eat high fiber source and whatnot. And we still make it a delicious meal, and then it just makes it a lot easier. So everybody's on board, and the chance of succeeding is even higher. So that little step of creating a meal plan, of writing down what your meal plan is, and printing it out and keeping it there for everybody to see makes a big difference. And again, here, like I said, you know, if you're bored of it, again, just rewrite it. You know, just print it out again. You know exactly, and just redo it. Just use step 3 to make a different plan like that. So you can have an alternating plan for 1 week, for another week. You can have a different plan for Monday, Tuesday. You know, however you like to play around it, go for it. Yeah. That's what I meant. It's a loose-based plan. Then the next step is simply to use that little template and write your own grocery list. Yeah, so write down a list of all the essentials or the must-haves in your house. And this again is another step that makes you ahead of the game, because one of the things we have a perfect plan, everything's going well, and next thing you know is you're out of the ingredients. Again, you're like, okay, I'm gonna go shopping tomorrow or the day after. Before you know it, it's too late, right? So it's just having this little grocery list, and again, maybe putting it in the fridge or somewhere, you know, wherever is easiest for you, in your phone, wherever you're using to do your shopping, have that in place, that essentials grocery list. So whenever you're going shopping, your partner is going shopping, that list needs to be there at all times, like that. So in my house, for example, I have tin mackerels, like I have a list of emergency food. So I need to have X amount of apples in my house at all times, X amount of dark chocolate bars, X amount of dry roasted peanuts, what else? X amount of tinned mackerels. Yeah, so this is like that tinned mackerels. You know, it's a great. Yeah, it's absolutely. So tinned mackerels, you know, it's a great source of high protein, great source of fats. And again, if you're out and about, you know, if you're like, okay, what do I eat? You know, you want a very quick source of high protein food. Something like tinned mackerels, it's great. Obviously, if you can stomach it, you'll find something. You can find a different option. But that is a great solution. So I always make sure I have X amount of tinned mackerels in my house. And if I come home, you know, late after meeting, whatever, if I'm not sure what to eat, or if I'm tired of cooking something, I just have to open a tin of mackerels, get some salad or whatever, mix it with some rice. Then I have a high protein, high fat meal right there. It's just simple solutions that will make life a lot better and simpler. And then I've also included a lot more further resources. For example, some of the videos that I mentioned, like alcohol, weight loss, sleep, weight loss. So sleep is a very important thing you want to work on, especially if you're lacking sleep. You know, I don't always recommend supplements, but it's, to help me improve my sleep, I have magnesium and zinc right before I go to bed. I use the word I because I can't recommend supplements, but I can say what works for me. Anyway, it works like a charm. And a lot of the clients as well who do struggle with sleep, you know, they've tried magnesium and zinc just before you go to sleep, and that really makes a lot of difference. It's just your nervous system is too stressed out, so that really helps to control it. Also, if you're doing a lot of weight training, like we are, all of us do, it helps to relax the muscles, the nervous system, and makes life a lot easier. So
DOMS easier as well, magnesium.
Say that again?
It helps with DOMS, magnesium.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's muscle recovery and whatnot. So if you're doing a lot of weight training, I would say magnesium is one of those supplements. Again, if you're eating a lot of things like fish as well, like mackerels. No, I don't think mackerel is high in magnesium. Sorry, there's some fish. Yeah. There's certain fish that are high in magnesium. You can get it through food as well, of course, but it's you only get it in small quantities. So you need to eat a lot of food to hit those magnesium targets. So which is why in those two occasions, supplementation would also help. Especially if you're doing a lot of weight training, that means your requirements goes even higher. Yeah, so your requirement compared to other people out there is different. So having those supplementation also helps a lot. I've included further information on intermittent fasting there. And also I've included the last one is understanding your hormones. This is especially for women as well. That's quite a big topic that one of my colleagues covered. But again, if you want to understand a little more about weight loss, weight training, and female hormonal function, that is quite a good video to just go through as well. Yeah. Essentially, that is